From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Digital Strategist at Sending Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Kasim with me, and we're going to talk all about supporting your business, why you need a virtual assistant, how to hire that person, and moving forward with that side of supporting you and your business. Sit back, relax, enjoy.
The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I'm here with my guest. Kasim, how are you today, my friend? And what's new in your
Living
world?
the dream. Thanks
Yeah,
for
you
having me on
always
your
say
show,
that.
Rob. I appreciate you. Yeah, sure do.
Yeah, such a pleasure, right? You know, it's just, as we were saying before we went to record, the world's in a tough place and we just got to make the best out of it. Isn't that true, right?
Yeah.
So you got a lot going on. And we thought we'd talk about a little bit about on your mind today was hiring and delegating. You started some new businesses, all kinds of stuff going on. So where did you want to start?
Oh gosh. I have a drum to beat actually. I think that for business owners and entrepreneurs, if they
Yeah.
don't have an executive assistant,
Yep.
that might be the most important task in front of them. That's, in my mind, the little hinge that swings the big door.
Okay. Now, are we talking a VA or are we talking something more than a VA?
No, when I think of VA, and I mean, it's a semantic discussion in many ways, so
I
not
know
to be
you are. Yep.
argumentative, but when I
Nope.
think of a VA, I think of like kind of low-level grunt work, data entry
Hmm.
or cold calling or whatever. What I would recommend is an executive assistant, someone that can, on a long enough timeline, act as you on your behalf. You want
Yep.
to attempt to clone yourself, and that can be a fractional endeavor. I don't think anybody's ever going to clone you perfectly, but I think that you'll
Hmm.
find resources that, and maybe it's their who knows? Maybe it's their research abilities, and you're like, oh gosh, this person does this as well, if not better than me, or their oversight, or inspect what you expect, or their graphic design, or whatever. I think as you really work with peak performers, you find yourself in a position. I think of it as an incubator role. Actually, my first EA became my director of social. My second EA became my director of automation. My third EA became my CTO, and then my best friend and my business partner. So when you
Oh,
bring
well.
on an executive assistant, you throw all this work at them, and then you see what they're good at, and you kind of use it as a flywheel to, just get them to do more of that.
Yeah, I like that idea. I would agree with you. An executive assistant is not same as a VA. I have one. Um, Stuff I like to do myself, like the podcast, for example. I know you get somebody to look after yours. Good for you. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. Everybody's different. And I'm not criticizing, but I think you need help. And and my big thing is I do a lot of travel, personal and business. I like to travel. I got clients that have me on the go anymore. I'm at the point now, and I wouldn't trust the VA overseas with my credit card if my life depended on it. Like
Hmm.
I don't have that confidence. I do with an executive assistant that's local. The big difference, right? So, um, but I'm at the point where we are all so busy. I think entrepreneurs have a tough time of letting go. And I think that's one of their biggest problems. And they try and save money in the wrong places. What do you think about that?
I had a conversation with a close friend of mine, really, really
Yeah.
brilliant guy, very successful. He just hired somebody for a role that he'd had a hard time filling. And he was
Hmm.
complaining to me. He's like, man, it takes her 2 hours to do something that would take me 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I started to laugh at him, and I was like, It's a great trade. You bill it, I don't know what he bills at, $500 an hour. You know what I mean? Like his time is worth at least
Yeah.
that, given what he makes. And he's paying her, I don't know what he's paying her, $20 an hour, you know? So I'm like, so you're trading $250 for 40, dude. That makes all the sense in the world. I think the metrics by which we measure success need to be attuned in a way that really illustrates the actual exchange of value.
Oh yeah.
We hold, just I don't know. I think people get really romantic about what they want to see from certain resources. The take-home message for all entrepreneurs is measure success by the output.
Yep.
Measure success by the output. Far too often people are, they're worried about what, clock in, clock out, screenshot desktops. What are you doing throughout your day? Who cares? What got done? What was the deliverable? What was the end result? What's the completed product at the end of the assembly line? That's what matters.
Yep. Yep. It was funny yesterday, going back to the executive decision. I was standing in a Costco on Tuesday with one of my best friends. She's a bit of a hand issue, so she's like, "Do you have a day you can come give me a hand with some stuff?" Play on words, but not intended. And I said, "Sure." She's gonna go into surgery on her left hand, and that includes lifting some heavy stuff. And we're in Costco, and she's like, "You're all smiles." I said, "Yeah, look at this email." Had a agency come back to me and say, "Would you take on 40 websites for security purposes?" And that's got dollars written all over it. And he said,
Hmm.
"But you're standing in Costco." I said, "You don't understand. I'm going to throw this to my executive assistant. By the time I hit your couch, my email will have been done, my contract will have been sent out, and it will be all in process. You watch this." Not only was it all done, by the time I hit her couch after helping her, the contract was signed and back in my hot little hand by the client.
Wow.
So, I mean, and there's the value. And probably a bad example because it makes it sound like I'm goofing off all day. I'm not. But the point was I was able to do two things because I had an executive assistant and it got taken care of because I have somebody in my life I trust to take care of that,
Yeah.
right?
No, I think it's a great example. And the point about goofing off, I think entrepreneurs don't do a good enough job at really indexing towards the direction of margin. And what I mean by that
Thank you.
is, man, you just need time. You need time to sit and think and do nothing. Doing nothing is not goofing off. We
Yep.
feel that way because we're shamed into thinking like you have to have your calendar full, you have to have your task list full. But that's when you do your best thinking. That's when you create the most, impactful products, ideas,
Mhm.
content, etc. And that's what these people are meant to do. They're meant to give you that margin.
Yeah. And also working all the time as entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs think, "Oh, I can work 50 hours a week." And I'm like, "Yeah, but how productive are you, number one? And how
Yeah.
good is that?" And in your case, you've got a couple of kids. I've got an older son who's 33. I have a partner in my life. You've got somebody in yours. They all want our attention too. So we've got to find a way to balance this. And my partner has been after me, not after me, basically gave me a deadline at the end of September to cut my work hours down to 36 hours a week or else.
Mm.
So you're rolling your eyes. Yeah.
Well,
It's like,
or else what? Has that been offered yet, or is it opaque?
no, I don't even want to go there because
Yeah.
I need to cut it down. So I agree, but part of it is finding the right person in place, which I've got, and then
Mm.
redefining some processes, and frankly, doing what you're good at and letting other people do the stuff you don't want to do or you're not good at too, right?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of I think we as entrepreneurs, a lot of them struggle and try and do everything, and I think that's the biggest mistake they can make.
Well, so not only do I agree with you very strongly, I think the root of the problem has a lot to do with optics. I think people, especially younger entrepreneurs, they want to
Hmm.
be the best. They want to be
Yep.
the hero. They want to be the expert, let's say. And so what I've seen relatively often is young entrepreneurs tend to be afraid of competence. They're afraid of a competent person because they don't want somebody who's smarter than them, better than them, that outshines them, faster than them. They can solve the problem because in their mind, they're like, oh gosh, if somebody else does that, what do you need me for? You know, they haven't really figured out the arbitrage opportunity. And so they hire manageable people who then, surprise, surprise, need to be managed. And they get mad that, oh, this isn't a peak performer, but it's actually what they wanted and was built into kind of the subconscious fear that they carry around.
Yeah. And I worked in healthcare, in technology for many years, over 20. And my CTO at the time, Sam, was very much he always used to say he wasn't the greatest, but he hired the right people to make himself look good.
Love that.
And I would agree. And I learned a lot from him because I worked under him for 22 years. And he was a very Italian. I should tell you, my partner's Italian too, so I get that. And we had many a interesting discussion. You
Yeah,
know the way Italians function. You get what I'm saying, right?
sure.
And but we always had the utmost respect. And I had dinner with him recently, and I said, one of the things that came out of working with you, forget all the technology, forget all the project management, forget everything. It was to hire the right people, and it would make me as a business owner look good. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's absolutely true. I actually think, people only have four things to sell. Every business sells for one of four things or a combination of those four
Yep.
things: processes, programs, products, and people.
Yep.
Processes, programs, products, people. Processes, programs, and products are all commoditized. As a matter of fact, we literally call them commodities in some cases, right? The
Yep.
only key differentiator that a business can sell that isn't a commodity, that isn't commoditized, are people. People are the most
Mm-hmm.
important part of every business. And that's true. It's always been true, and it's only becoming more true in a post-AI world. There's a reason Mark Zuckerberg is offering $100 million signing bonus to the OpenAI team if they're willing to cross over, go behind
Yeah.
enemy lines, let's say. Like, people make the difference. And in a world where there's, trillion-dollar AI applications that will scale people to, literal exponential degrees, you have to have extraordinary people because the only thing that you want to scale would be that which is exceptional.
Yep.
If you have a mediocre person, dude, even a B plus employee in a pre-AI world is fine. You need those. But a B plus employee in a post-AI world is horrifying because it means that you are scaling, you're massively replicating a non-ideal output. Because B plus is short of, what would we say? It's short of the mark that somebody would determine, or that we would all agree is, I don't want to say perfect, but let's say good enough, good enough to be scaled.
I agree.
So you take these people that, in a pre-AI world, they were fine. They were doing the job. They were checking the box, dotting I's and crossing T's. In a post-AI world, man, you don't want to scale that person. It's actually damaging. You're going to scale mediocrity to the moon.
Yeah, I agree. You've decided you've broken down as a business owner. You need that executive assistant. I'll find one.
I didn't catch that question, Rob. I'm sorry. I think you
Sorry,
broke up.
you no worries. You've decided you needed that executive assistant. I don't have one. I do, but say I don't. How do I go
Sure.
find one?
Oh,
How do I
I've
find one?
created a framework for that exact process. So this is 20 years of my life. I think the only thing I'm world class at is talent acquisition.
Yep.
Finding top talent is something I've made a 2 decade long study. And it's not even really my framework, to be honest with you. I've just stolen from everybody else. I went and I studied the
Yeah.
greats and I pulled everything that works and I battle tested it in real time across multiple businesses and multiple industries. And I created what I think is the greatest hiring framework in the world. And you and your audience can have it for free. They can go to thehirebook.com and you get the book. It's free. You get all the templates, the job posting board, the checklist, the cheat sheet. There's no paywall. There's no ascension. My goal in life is to make my name synonymous with hiring. So if somebody says, "Oh, I need to hire," I want the whole world to say, "Oh, you have to read Kasim's book," which is why I'm giving it away. It's not easy. There's work involved, but it's very accessible. It's probably a weekend's worth of a project. Like you're going to sit down and, just crafting your job posting. Most people do that horribly wrong. Creating a trial project, creating the funnel, creating the nurture, creating the ascension. Those things are going to take you some time. If you have a good assistant, you could delegate that to your assistant. But what's nice is once you've spent that weekend, once you've done the job, and my templates, I think, make it much, 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 much easier. You never have to do it again. You have an assembly line for top talent. And the assembly line needs a little bit of tweaking, but you can use it for every role you'll ever hire for. The only thing my framework doesn't work for, the only thing I've ever failed at is outbound sales. I can't use my framework to hire outbound salespeople. And I think the reason for that is a really good outbound salesperson doesn't need a job board to find a job. They go
Yeah.
kick down a door and they go get the job they want, But other than
Yeah.
that, I mean, I've hired uh, C-level roles, software engineers, project managers, media buyers, graphic designers, content creators. Like, there's not a role outside of outbound sales that this framework doesn't work for.
No, that's cool. And it only takes a weekend.
Well, it takes a weekend to build, and then it takes as long as you take to let people start at the top of the funnel and then filter down. So what's going to happen is
Yeah.
you place the job posting, and the job posting is a sales letter. Most people write job postings like they're prison sentences. You must comply with all rules and regulations or you will be severely punished type of
Yeah.
language. It's horrible. Your job posting should be a sales letter, and the sales letter comes with a level of instructions that somebody needs to follow in order to allow you to start filtering out prospects. To do this right, to hire peak performers, you have to pay more. And if you pay more, you get inundated with applications because winners want to win, but you don't know who a peak performer is. So you build in what I call fly traps, and the fly traps help you filter out applicants before you ever have to talk to them. So to give you some small examples, the job posting is going to read at the top, to apply, your email subject line must read, I actually read the instructions. If they send an email and the subject line doesn't read, I actually read the instructions, it's automatically filtered out. You never even see it. You can do that with Zapier automatically. And
Yep.
then
Yep.
when you open up the email, have they read the instructions? I ask for little nuanced things. I'll say, send me your email, send me your resume as a link in a PDF format with this naming convention. Do I care that it's a link and not an attachment? Do I care that it's PDF and not Word? No. I want to know that you can stop, slow down, follow instructions. After they've submitted their application, if I like their formatting and they've answered all my questions and followed my instructions, I send them a trial project. And I'll do
Yeah.
something, it depends on who it is, Rob, but sometimes I'll say, hey, Rob, I'd love to pay you to do a trial project before we do an interview. I'll give you whatever the geography or the market allows for. So, if you're hiring in, honestly, it doesn't, if you're hiring in Latin America, $40 for 2 hours worth of work is great. It's fine. It's not going to make anybody rich, but it shows you respect their time. So I'll give you $40 for 2 hours worth of work. And then I ask for their PayPal address and I'll pay them the $40, but I'll never follow up with the project. And you think like, oh, Kasim, that's expensive. If you do that 10 or 20 times, that's $400, $800. I think that's a small price to pay to figure out who's not integrous, who's going to ghost you, who's going to steal your $40, who doesn't follow up, who's not proactive. And then for the people that do follow up and say, hey, you paid me, where's the project? You send them the project, but I'll do things like, just as an example, let's say I'm hiring a graphic designer, I'll say, here's the design project. You need to log into this Drive account in order to download the assets. And I'll talk to them about like, how long do you think this will take? When can I expect it? Because that lets me see how they communicate,
Yep.
how they manage expectations. But when I send them the login credentials, I send them the wrong username and password. And I wait to see how long it takes for them to figure that out. If you do that, and there's hundreds of fly traps that you can build into these systems, and again, 99.99% of them all of them are automated. When you
Yep.
do that, and you're willing to pay more and let people work from home and let them work on a semi-flexible schedule, you get a massive amount of applicants. And the people that make it to the end are the best of the best of the best of the best. They're true Pareto talent. They're top tier. And then you just hire who
You
you
know,
like
it's
most.
it's funny. You mentioned communication
Yeah.
right off the top, and that's a big one. And it's funny because I'm reading a book right now. I'm just trying to remember the topic, listening to a book by a lawyer, and I can send you the book later. But he's talking about communication skills. And it's the number one problem we have with people we work closely with is a lot of people don't communicate well. Very simple. They don't know how to ask. They don't know how to have a discussion without getting emotionally involved. They
Yeah.
don't know how to have a realistic discussion. And I don't think communication skills are learned as well today as they were 20 years ago. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. And it's going to get worse because I'm experiencing this right now with a friend of a friend
Uh-oh.
who, yeah, um, we're working together in a way that for me feels like I'm doing him a favor, let's say.
Yeah.
But I can tell when he messages me or responds to my messages, he's using ChatGPT,
Okay.
which means he's not really reading my email. He's not really listening to what I'm saying. He's going to ChatGPT saying,
Yeah.
how should I respond to this? Which on the
Yeah.
surface is fine. But if you do that, in a conversation, let's say that I talk, he talks, I talk, he talks, I talk, he talks. We've
Hmm.
each had 3 rounds, right? Like 3 turns. And the first time he did that, he disassociated himself from what I was saying. The second time he did that, he actually has no connection, no contextual basis of no foundation for where we are in the conversation because he didn't really listen to what I was saying. He doesn't really even understand what he said back. And now the second time, my response is not to him, it's to the machine. And so now I'm talking to ChatGPT and I'm not talking to him. And when we ultimately decide what to do, I don't even think he was a participant in that discussion per se. And I
You
think that
think
that's going to become
ChatGPT was the participant?
I'm talking to ChatGPT and ChatGPT knows what I want, maybe, but he's the one that I'm asking to execute on this. So yeah, I think that's going to get so much worse. And then we'll reach whatever tipping point we reach, or we won't, who knows?
Yeah. In hiring and delegating, should you be using AI or not?
Oh yeah, one of the key performance indicators I have for my employees is how often and how well they use AI. But that's the thing that I really like about top performers is they're not using AI to get out of work. They're using AI to do their work more efficiently and more effectively.
Yeah.
So if you copy and paste, it's so easy to see through. It's just so easy to see through. I want them to maximize their own value, and I believe that AI is a bottom-up initiative. I don't think a McKinsey consultant is going to come into an organization and say, "Oh, you should use AI here and here and here." I think it's going to be the person on the assembly line putting the spring in the sprocket and tightening the screw, saying, "Oh, you know what? If we used AI here, this one part of my job would actually become faster and easier and better." And then you cascade that across every organization in every role. AI is a bottom-up initiative. And so I like my employees empowered with AI training, AI communities, so that they know not just how to use AI, but they also know that they're not going to be penalized for it. What a lot of businesses are doing, blows my mind, is they're very publicly punishing people who, if they use AI to automate their role, they basically get rid of the person. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, that's self-defeating because
Yep.
now if there are opportunities to use AI, people sure as hell aren't going to tell you.
Yeah. Why would they?
Why would
It's
they?
a
Yeah,
it's an
exactly right.
it's an interesting problem. Let's shift gears from it. We were talking before. You're excited about a new venture you've launched, right? You want to share
Yeah.
about it?
I just launched a community this morning. It's called AEO.co. AEO stands for Answer Engine Optimization. Most of the world doesn't know this, but the way that we engage with content is about to change. It's the biggest change in content delivery since we first started browsing the internet in mass.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember going to Walmart and getting those little America Online CDs that gave
You
you
mean the
like,
ones that were in every magazine that they sent you,
yeah, you
every
get
tech
200
magazine?
minutes free or 1,000 minutes free or whatever it was.
Of course.
And
The days of
from that,
dial-up.
yeah, the days of dial-up. From that point until now, we have interfaced with the internet through the context of a search bar. And that's actually a really critical distinction because the search bar means a couple things. Search bar means search graph. It means hierarchically structured ranking. It means options. It means singular steps in depth of research, meaning you take one step at a time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's search. What's interesting about tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity and Grok and all the rest of them that people don't necessarily consider is we're outsourcing our search. So it's not that search is no longer being done, it's that the search is being done independent or as a precursor to whatever it is that we receive. And what we're receiving are answers. And that's an entirely different frame because, search is, like I mentioned, one step in depth, where when you're communicating with ChatGPT, you're not searching, you're talking, and the conversation allows for what could amount to truly 30, 40, or 50 steps deep before it is that you receive the citation or the answer or the response or the result. And the reason that change is so significant is because how content is cataloged and delivered by ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok or any of the others is entirely different than how content is ranked inside of search engines. And so the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been spent on search engine optimization are more or less for naught at this point, or at whatever point we reach critical mass and people start using LLMs more than they use search. And the new endeavor is going to be answer engine optimization. How do you get ChatGPT to say your name? And the truth is I don't know. I have 5 employees that do nothing but they spent the last 8 months looking into our LLM source of citations. So I have hundreds of millions of data points on the topic. I probably have more data on this than any other human alive that's not inside of one of the evil empires that is the LLMs. And it still doesn't mean that I know what's happening. I want to be really clear about that because so many people like to say like, oh, I'm an AI expert. I'm not an expert. I'm a guy with a lot of data. And I launched this community so I can share the data with people who are motivated to help answer this question, and we're going to crack that code together. So it's really mostly for recovering SEOs, agency owners, and business owners that want to rank inside of LLMs.
I think old style SEO is about to go out the window if it hasn't already. I can tell they're desperate. Every morning as an agency owner, I wake up to 20 SEO emails saying, by the way, you have problems. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Tell me something I don't know.
You mean both.
And they're all clamoring for business right now. We know that they're in trouble.
Right.
I know AI works well. What I would say is if you're using an AI tool, and I could be wrong, and you're using it for search, try and standardize on the one tool because they'll get used to what you're asking it. I've gone that route where I'm kind of all in with Gemini. Gemini's my tool of choice for a multitude of reasons, including I work in a Google world. I have a Google phone. It makes sense. There's a multitude of reasons. And people say, is AI that good? And I took my partner's name one day and I threw it in AI, and she's not active on the internet. She's been mentioned in a couple of podcasts for a couple of reasons and things like that. And I said, well, here's your answer. And they're like, but she's nowhere except a couple of podcasts. I said, I know. Here's your answer. So I agree with you. I think this is the way the industry is going. And you need to be on that bus now, not 6 months from now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's it's funny when I wanted to do this, I talked to one of my best friends, business partner, my mastermind, Perry Belcher. He's the godfather of digital marketing. He coined the term digital marketer, started the #1 marketing conference in the world, sort of declaring events. Brilliant guy. Perry, 6 months ago, he told me, he's like, dude, you're 2 years early. A few days ago, he and I were on the phone, and I told him, I was like, oh, we're launching the AEO thing. And he goes, I think you might be a couple months late.
Yeah.
So
the
from
market
2 years early to a couple
much.
months late. Yeah.
Yeah. It is changing that much. And
Right.
and it's changed the way I do things. I know when I need something, I'm probably going to go to AI and say, find it for me before I go to traditional search. I'm wired that way. And it has changed. and it is changing the way we do things. Now, I'm not a big fan of AI saying, oh, we're going to lose jobs. Everybody's in that mode, and I disagree. Remember the printing press? Remember what happened with books? Do we still have books? Yes. Do we still have publishers? Yes. Have we changed the way we publish books? Yes. Are there people hired? Yeah, their roles changed. AI is doing exactly that, right?
I'm on the other side of the fence, Rob. I think we're looking at the biggest labor collapse in human history.
Okay. You think so?
Yeah, I think that universal basic income becomes an a priori prerequisite in the entire merged world. I think we pay 80% of people to stay at home and watch Netflix. I do.
That's interesting.
I'll give you so just as an example, Uber and Lyft are the second largest employers in the country, second
Yep.
only to the US government. So if you don't count the government, they're the largest employers in the country collectively.
In
And
Canada too, by the way. Yeah.
in Phoenix, Arizona, there are more Waymos at the Sky Harbor Airport than there are Ubers. And day before yesterday, Elon Musk launched Tesla's auto cabs. And what's sad is I don't see what are Uber and Lyft drivers going to do. These are folks that, God bless them, and let me step lightly here, but if they had the skill set to do something else, they'd be doing it, right? So it's not like these are radiologists or software engineers, which is scary because AI beats radiologists and software engineers too. So it's not, it's a change in mechanics as far as the productive endeavor is concerned. For the first time ever, we're not changing what work is being done. For the first time in human history, we're actually changing who does the work. And as soon as robotics catches up to AI, I think we're in Star Trek land then. I don't think humanity's required to pursue the productive endeavor. And to be honest with you, I actually don't think it's a zombie apocalypse moment either. I think it might be the best thing that's ever happened to us. Absolute poverty falls to zero. So many of the problems that we deal with from a societal perspective are effectively wiped out. Supply chain issues, power management, like even issues with litigation and the judiciary and voter fraud. And I mean, like there's very few things you could point at that AI doesn't help to some degree. And I think what humans are left with is time. And I actually think there's a huge class of humanity that benefits from this that has been left behind by, the artists, musicians, playwrights, filmmakers, creatives, painters. Those people don't fit into our society now. We don't honor what they do. Anybody who does something for the sake of it, like I look at some of these. I was in Austin recently, and I think Austin's still the live music capital of the world.
Very much so.
And when I was in Austin, I'm in this little pub, and there's nobody else in it. There's maybe me or one other person, and there's this young woman playing the guitar and singing. And Rob, she was extraordinary. She was as good, if not better than anybody. You know what I mean? She's like as good, if not better than Taylor Swift by 1,000.
Yeah.
And you know what? She's in a pub singing for me and one other person, and neither of us were paying attention because we don't honor so much of the creative endeavor. And I think the post-AI world puts us in a position where doing things for the sake of themselves becomes, it's bad for you and I, dude. Entrepreneurs are screwed. What are we going to do? But I think the people that kind of figure out how to self-actualize, how to be led from within, like what is inside of them that wants to be given birth outside of what we're willing to pay for. And that'll be a fun thing to see. Maybe. Who knows?
Time will tell, right?
Yeah, time will. Yeah, doesn't it always?
Yeah, it's the world's in an interesting spot, I have to say. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, talk about hiring and delegating, find out what you do, where's the best place to go?
They can go to kasim.me, Kasim.me. They can have my book for free. They can see all my social channels. I give a lot of content away too. Would love to stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kasim. You have a wonderful day, my friend.
Rob, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Tech, stunning digital marketing for all your digital marketing needs today.
Very special thank you to Kasim for joining me on this edition of
The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.